1 hour at least. You can go, even if it goes a little over, it's fine.
Okay, and if we like to have a conversation about
Yeah,
whatever,
you can, like, in between the presentation also, you can talk to everybody, or anybody can message you or even talk to you if you want.
so there's got to be more people on this live stream that are engaging on this live, right?
Yeah, this one, there are 3 people in the waiting room. Maybe 2 people are with you, but 1 or 2 people will join.
Okay, perfect.
So there are, I think, 7 or 8 people have registered. So I don't know how many are going to join.
And Rebecca will be here too, I'm guessing?
No,
No, okay.
I will be the one in the background.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, I'll let everybody in. And I'll also start the video.
So Jennifer, who just connected, is on the Alinker team.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for being here, because it's apparently it's live streamed on YouTube.
YouTube and Facebook.
And Facebook.
Yeah.
So Jennifer, get the link maybe. Kazar, can you share the link with Jennifer?
Sure, I will
She
share
can
the
share
link.
on.
I show the video. After that, I will share the link.
Fantastic, thank you.
Okay.
Connectra creates opportunities for people living with disabilities by providing information, resources, and programming geared towards greater inclusion and quality of life. Check out some of the programs we offer through our online learning platform, Connect Together, including our Service Mondays, where we highlight a local organization or initiative, Wednesday Chair Yoga with Bobby Seal-Kobiski, Thursday Adapted Fitness with Megan Williamson, Friday Rotating Dance Classes hosted by Janice Lawrence and Joanne Cuff, and other initiatives including presentations by the Disabled Independent Gardeners Association's Growable program and our Perspective series. Check out our updated programs calendar on our website, connectra.org, or find us on Facebook at Connectra Society.
Okay, you can start.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I am B. Alink, the inventor of the Alinker, and I am currently residing on and working from the unceded and traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, in specific the Musqueam, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Squamish nations. I will start presenting what the Alinker is, where it came from, where I had the ideas from, what we're seeing happening in the whole world of disabilities and chronic illnesses, and how we as a company position ourselves to actually be a vehicle for change in this whole changing environment. So let me start sharing my screen, and I'll give you some introduction to how we are. Let's see, what can you see? This is always the technical side of the story. What can you see at the moment? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
And full screen or just part of it?
Partial screen.
Partial screen. Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
awesome. Okay, so the Alinker is a mobility aid, is a walking bike, a 3-wheeled walking bike that we have had in the market now for 7 years. I'll give you a little bit background on what happened. this is how the company started. My mother and I were walking over the market in the Netherlands, in the place where she lived, and she saw some people with mobility aids, with walkers, electric scooters, and out of the blue, she said, "Over my dead body, I will never use one of those things." And I was like, "What did you just say?" And with that comment, she, first of all, she caught herself on her own judgment of how she looked at those people, and that then she thought maybe I might have to use one of those devices one day as I'm aging, and I don't want to be looked at as I am looking at those people. So she caught herself on a judgment. But what it did with me is that it made me aware that most mobility devices are designed as a technical solution for a body with a problem. We are not a body with a problem. We are full human beings who want to live an active and engaged life, who happen to have a little bit more logistical stuff to deal with than when you don't have disabilities. But the fact that I miss a leg or walk wonky doesn't make me a different person than a person who doesn't walk wonky or has both legs. The whole process to developing the Alinker was for me a sort of discovery, like, oh, mobility aids, how does that work? What does that world look like? The whole world, we are treated on the summary of our external characteristics, whether it be how we walk, how we move through life physically, what we look like, the skin color that we have, and gender specifics that we might have. And we are judged on the sum of our outer characteristics. That's what we have, but that's not who we are. So I set out, with that comment of my mom, I set out to design something so cool that everybody would want to use it, and that it would overcome the social divide between people with and without disabilities. Because the social divide that it creates, that people like, oh, I don't want to be like that, is to me instantly, with that comment of my mom, instantly became a justice issue. And when justice or injustice is coming up, I get activated. So what you see here on the left is prototype number 1. I mean, on the right, you see the first little cardboard thing that I made. Like, how can I make something that is cool, that is as a thing nice to look at, is a cool thing, and get us at eye level and able to use your legs. And ultimately I made 14 prototypes before I had the one that we could manufacture. And this is the first prototype that you see this old guy on. He's 82 years old in this picture, and the moment and it would have been painful for his crutch, because at that moment it was just a piece of plywood that didn't even have a saddle yet. But this was just a proof of concept. And he got on it, he flipped his cap around, something happened in his face, and he was like, oh my God, I can run again. And he started running on it. And I thought, if this old guy can run again, then there is something, then I've got a concept that is more than just a better thing that at least my stubborn Dutch mom will use. So I started further exploring. I was like, okay, this is interesting. Then Dini lost both her legs, one below the knee and one up to her hip, both her legs in an accident where she collided with a dump truck. I talk about Dini in my TED talk as well. And we asked people to be involved in the process of designing, because if the people who are going to use it just get confronted with something that they can buy, but were not included in the process, then you might miss the ball completely. So Dini was involved, other people have been involved in the process, and Dini, with missing 2 legs, went from wheelchair to Alinker user and got her job back and later on had additional issues that she really couldn't use the Alinker anymore, because some people really need to use a wheelchair, and then the wheelchair is fantastic. This is always the thing with talking about the Alinker at eye level, promoting that. There's nothing wrong with a wheelchair and wheelchair users. There is, however, a lot wrong with how wheelchair users are being treated in this society. And we're hoping with the conversations that we create around the Alinker that people are willing to become a little bit more aware of what it means to live with disabilities and to having to use assistive devices. And ultimately, with promoting the Alinker and what it does for people, we're hoping to create awareness that people are willing to think a little bit different, or treat people with wheelchairs also a little bit different than that they do now. This was prototype 4, and along the process, I learned a lot about what the whole disability world is like. And Haruna has muscular dystrophy. She was an exchange student from Japan who came to Vancouver for a year, has used a wheelchair her whole adult life. She has muscular dystrophy, has no muscle mass left nearly. And she asked me, can I try that? And this is prototype number 4. And my first response in my head was like, can she try that? And then I was like, who am I? Of course she can try that. If she wants to try it, she can try it. So we helped her. This is on Granville Island, the public market. And we helped her on the Alinker because she didn't have the strength to get on it. But when she was on it, she said, I feel so tall, I feel so tall. And then she went on walking. I mean, not running marathons yet, but she went on walking and said, like, if I'd had this years before, I would have not lost my muscle mass as fast as I have now. I learned from Haruna that more than 60% of wheelchair users can actually use their legs, but had nothing to, there was no option to be at eye level and keep your legs moving. Keeping your legs moving is hugely important because it actually, by exerting pressure on your sit bones as the Alinker does, we have learned that it activates the brain. When you walk, you actually don't walk with your legs. Yeah, that's the hardware, but the software is that you send intentions down to your legs, they get translated by your nerves to the muscles, and then you start moving and you actually catch yourself. But because your legs are moving, there's a signal back to the brain. It's like that's happening. And how do you correct it if there's, for example, an uneven surface? The constant feedback loop from the brain to the legs and the legs back to the brain to tell the brain what's happening there. If there's a pebble that you step on, or if there's soft surfaces, how you constantly correct the communication between your brain and your legs. If you do not activate the brain gets frustrated and it doesn't know what to do. If you activate the brain by exerting pressure on your sit bones as you move your legs, your brain is like, oh yeah, I know that. I know how to get back to that. I'm going to try and make connections again. So the activation of the brain allows the brain to do what it really does well. And on the left, you see a guy with Alzheimer's who hadn't smiled for years. And with the Alinker, and it was still a prototype, but he was so happy he zipped around his home. And he was much more approachable. He remembered things that he didn't remember before. And it was a very different process since he was on the Alinker. On the right side is Harley. Harley is quite on the spectrum of autism, also is an amputee and has a lot of other things like OCD and things that he tries to navigate his life with. And, you know, and the words are horrible, but I don't know what the alternatives are. Tantrums and meltdowns that people with autism live with. And they are super exhaustive and stressful for people on the spectrum as well as the caregivers around them. Harley is 27 years old and had massive meltdowns and tantrums that were quite stressing. Since he's using the Alinker, he hasn't had any meltdowns or tantrums, and that is because his mind is engaged, his brain is engaged. His brain doesn't need to get over frustrated because it wants to do something, but it doesn't know how to do it because it doesn't get activated. Harley does marathons. He was the first person to do a London marathon on the Alinker with one leg and his prosthetic foot. His mom actually runs with him, and it has absolutely changed his life that he doesn't have the stress of the tantrums and the fear of tantrums and the fear of getting a meltdown in public, like, oh, we better not go there because then this happens and that happens. The stress that people with disabilities deal with trying to navigate their own bodies as well as the environment is taxing, costs enormous amounts of energy, which is often not understood by people that just see somebody in a wheelchair going by. There's so much in our environment that is an obstruction, that causes stress, that causes anxiety, that is hard to navigate. And with the Alinker, it is easier from what we hear as the feedback from Alinker users. It gets a lot easier to navigate because you're safe, you're stable, your brain is activated, so you don't need to get stressed. You're engaged, you're more energetic, you're more aware, and the whole world becomes a little bit bigger again. That's what we hear from people in general. Like, my life was getting really small, and with the Alinker, people can get out and have a lot bigger reach in their life again, can go out to museums, to people travel with it, they take it on planes. Public transport is generally open to facilitating people with an Alinker. It does fit in the footprint of a wheelchair, so it is anywhere where a wheelchair can go, the Alinker can go, and then you can fold it up and take the wheels off. The wheels go quick release like wheelchair wheels, and you can quick release the seat. This is my mother, who was, because she's passed now 2 years ago, but was a very stubborn Dutch woman who always said, like, over my dead body, clearly. That's what started this company. But she got on the Alinker and we did big road trips together. On the left, you see her in the UK when we were meeting the distributor there and doing a big fair where she was promoting the Alinker, and my mom went around the grass grounds. It was a big fair with a lot of stuff going on, and she could have never walked that with her cane because of the balance and everything. And on the Alinker, she just zipped around at the time of her life. And in the right side, we're in Switzerland. She always had that same smile and her same vest. I'm just seeing. She always wore the same stuff. But that's in Switzerland when we met our distributor there. And I'm just super happy that in the last years of her life, she had that reach in her life, and she could go out with me on those road trips, and we had fantastic times. It activates your brain, as I said. On the left side, you see Wilco, and Wilco had a massive stroke. His whole right side is not working. You can see that he's got his right leg on the front of the Alinker, and he's holding his hand like this because he can't move his hand anymore. But with one leg and one arm, he runs marathons, and he is a huge advocate. He's in the Netherlands, but he is an incredible athlete, actually became an athlete with the Alinker even more. He does whole tours through the Netherlands, and his disability due to stroke has recovered a lot beyond anything that doctors told him he would have to anticipate his future would be. On the right side is New Zealand, because we also have Alinkers in New Zealand and Australia. Eltje had a hit and run accident, was hit from the back. She was a racer, a bike racer, in the national competitions, in international competitions, but was hit from the back, had severe trauma to her body and her brain. And I'll show you a video later of Eltje, but with the Alinker, she runs again and did most of her rehabilitation with her Alinker, and does now races again, is actually a Paralympian now. A little bit about the demographics, and you might know this, but some things you might not know. 20 to 25% of the population in North America lives with disabilities, some kind of disability. 15% of the population actually relates to mobility. So 15 out of each 100 people live with some condition that affects their mobility. 80% of people that live with disabilities are using antidepressants, because our world is not very kind to people with disabilities. And 60%, this might shock you, but it shocked me when I heard the amount, but 60% of our population has at least one chronic illness, of which 96% is reversible with food and movement. And we're talking about food and movement as medicine, because many of the disabilities that people live with are actually related to a chronic illness and can be reversed by not just, trying to medicate it with medication, but spending a little bit more time and awareness about what do we feed our body with and how much do we move and how much does that affect how my body is in relation to mobility. There's two things, like when I was young, I was in a music week and with 1/3 of people with disabilities, and I became aware of this, how the world has changed, because that was before fast food, because I'm that old. The kids with disabilities had spina bifida, cerebral palsy, one was blind, some had spasticity, another had muscular dystrophy. The disabilities then were quite different than what we now see as disabilities. And I start talking about this as disabilities that affect your mobility versus disabilities that are a consequence of chronic illnesses. And chronic illnesses generally are related to how we live, what we feed ourselves with, what the food industry feeds us, i.e. what's available in supermarkets, and how that makes us sick and then feeds into a pharma industry that predominantly wants to medicate us. And so when we talk about disabilities, there is a difference in disabilities that I've known since I was young and disabilities that are quite new and lifestyle related. And those often are reversible with food and movement. And just to give you one of the biggest things that's happening, that is one of those lifestyle things. And you got to be very careful when you talk about food, because when you talk about food, people instantly get defensive, like, yes, but I want my this, that, and the other. Food is a very sensitive issue, and yet we tell ourselves a lot of stories about, I deserve this treat, I deserve that treat. But if treats kill you, how much is it actually a treat or not? So there's a lot of narrative in our heads that keep us stuck eating stuff that kills us. So there's a lot that we can do there, and I'll tell you a little bit about that later. And I already mentioned that the 60% of people who use wheelchairs and electric scooters can still use their legs, but there was nothing designed to them to be at eye level. The sick care system is reactive to sickness. promotes inactivity and prescribes medication, because the sick care system, and I call it a sick care system because it is responding to sickness and it only reactive. And so the moment we call that a sick care system, we can becoming aware that we actually don't have a healthcare system. And to us, a healthcare system breaks down in mobility, food, and community. And then when you look around you, it's like, yeah, that's nice. You can talk about mobility, food, and community, but if that's not accessible for people, then how do we get access to that? So we have built the whole Alinker company to create access to mobility by rent to own and doing campaigns with people. 236 campaigns are completed through 236 people who could never afford an Alinker now have an Alinker because there was a community that we organized, that we own with each other, that we built with each other to support each other, because showing up for each other doesn't cost any money. And acknowledging each other is important. If you're not acknowledged, you don't exist. And we've created a whole society where people are not acknowledged and they feel isolated. And if there's anything that I've learned in doing the Alinker, is that isolation often is a way bigger problem than the physical stuff that people are dealing with. So this is the short of it. 15%, which is 48 million people of Americans live with specific disability affecting mobility. That's 48 million people that are isolated by society, that are discarded by society, that are not acknowledged. And society can only think about accessibility as, oh, that's a ramp. And they can only think about disability if you're in a wheelchair. But if you're in a wheelchair and you can still use your legs and you get up in the supermarket and grab something from the top shelf, you're called a fraud because you're not really disabled and you're trying to flood the system. There are so many assumptions about what disability needs to look like and what disability is supposed to be, that people with disabilities and with a variety of assistive devices, or not, if it's invisible disabilities, are constantly confronted with. And dealing with the assumptions of society on what disability should look like and what it is supposed to look like according to their opinions is often harder than navigating your body in itself. And so I'm going to show you a few videos, unless there's questions right now. Are there any questions right now? No questions, then I'll continue to the videos. And Kausar, I don't know, can you let me know if you can hear the audio with the videos, because in some it's just music, but another one it is important that you can actually hear what's being said. So if you can let me know, this one actually is important that the audio is on. So let me know if you can hear that.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Elche.
Can you hear that? Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
I'm a former brain injury patient, and I work really badly, but at Alinker, I will have a go around Belgium, and I'm much faster.
So that's Elja. Next one.
Hi, I'm
How do I get to the next slide?
Elche.
Stop. How do I go to the next slide? Kazar, can you help me how I could get to the next slide without just triggering this video again. Let me stop the share and then I'll do that again. Let's see if I can get.
Hi,
Oh, there we go. Okay, so I will. Share my screen again. Sorry about that. That's just.
And when you share it, does it have a box which says with sound? When you
Say it
click
again.
on share screen, at the bottom there is one box which says share sound.
Ah, there we go. Yes.
You can click on that, yeah, and then.
Perfect. Okay, so here's Terry. Terry is a professor at Stanford, and her knees are beyond repair. Travels to Hawaii to run a conference. She's literally running. She cannot walk 20 feet, but she runs the whole conference. She's doing 6 to 10 miles per day. She's the fastest professor on the campus, and it has absolutely changed her life. Same thing. Oh, here we go. This is Jennifer, and Jennifer will listen to her voice.
Hey, my name is Jennifer. I have MS. It has affected my voice.
Jennifer did a crowdfunding campaign and got on Alinker.
So, I am at eye level. I'm on my Alinker.
Jennifer had not left her house for 4 years.
So I'm like a little over 2 months into my Alinkering, and my voice is better. I think I activated my brain. I'm pretty excited about that. Alinkering every day.
Look at Millie.
Hi, good Monday morning from me and Millie. Let's get some people rolling. Have a great day.
This still makes me cry, actually, because it is so dramatic to see what activating the brain does to the voice, to her whole life. Jennifer had literally not left her house for 4 years because there was no way she could get out. Jennifer is now employed by us and does customer service for the last 3 years. Changed everything. And Jennifer is one of the best customer service people you can ever wish for, because she knows what that life was and is and the difference that it made. And Jennifer's on this call actually right now, so maybe Jennifer can say something later on. But this next video is Heather. Heather has MS for years and was told that she would never run again. So here's the video.
Team Alinker, that's all I can say. This thing is amazing.
It's the first time she get on it.
Yay.
She used to be a marathon runner and then got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. This is with her physiotherapist and how she moves. And she was devastated that she could never do marathons again because that was her whole life. But Heather doesn't give up easily. And then she found the Alinker through Selma's, to Selma Blair, who advocated really hard with the Alinker because it changed her life.
Look at this! 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 Look at Lady Bell! And I'm gonna... This is my independence.
get going, I would like to introduce you to Lady Belle. She's my mobility bike, and this is what I'm using to move these days. She's a pretty tough girl.
When we met Heather the first time, what you saw in that video is when another Alinker user with MS and I did a half marathon together, and we raised money for the next two people because we do crowdfunding campaigns with people. We raised the money for two Alinkers that day, and I gave my Alinker that I did the half marathon with to Heather. I donated it to her. And then it's so hard to tell those stories not to tear up. I mean, I designed this thing and I could have never imagined how much this would mean and how much of a difference it would make in people's lives. And people do become friends. Heather is a really good friend of ours. She's in our community, and we, yeah. Anyway, it's always really emotional to see those videos. This is Sergio. Sergio was 24 when he got in a horrific motorcycle accident and has more than a foot of titanium in his back, and he would absolutely never walk, is what the medical system told him. But luckily he found NeuroFit 360, which is a sports rehabilitation place in Florida, close to Miami. And they focus on how you want to live your life, not that you have a body with a problem now, but how do you want to live your life? And they focus on activating the brain and focus on repetition, 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 because that is what the brain gets. And then this is possible.
Okay, now I want to time it. You did that in less than 5 minutes. For real? Killed it.
This is Jairus during a fashion show who lost his leg to cancer. He's a Hemi. And this is Jairus. He's a 6'4" tall guy. This is Victoria with Parkinson's. And since she got on the Alinker, she's a lot more mobile and out there and doesn't stop. There is those, yeah, there are so many things that we are told by the medical system that really doesn't serve us. And the medical system, as you might experience personally or be confronted with, the medical system is not something that we want to be dependent on. Yet, if you have a disability, you become dependent on the healthcare system. During the pandemic, 30% of personnel has disappeared, either died of COVID or quit their jobs because it's no fun anymore to work in the healthcare system. And we need to do something together. We cannot just have a elevated demand on the healthcare system and a healthcare system, the sick care system, that is less and less compatible with the demand. We have an aging population. We have chronic illnesses on the rise. There are things that we can do to become less dependent on the healthcare system. And we can also make or not spend medical expenses by treating mobility and food as medicine. I cannot imagine becoming dependent on the sick care system, because waiting time, for example, and let me go through the next slides actually, because we've got a few case studies on how we can do something else, and the money, let's just talk about money, because we know the personal impact on people. You've seen the videos, but the impact to society and what we can do together in community, because I think community is the crux, to have people change our practices in relation to mobility, change our practices in relation to food. So I want to give a few case studies that we have many of, but here's a few to just illustrate what we can do if we regard mobility and food as medicine. As the Alinker, we are the antidote to a sick care system. What I said, health is having mobility, community, and food. But in our current system, people have been driven into poverty. So building access to community, mobility, and food is the crux to building health. And so we have built our community to build that access. That's who we are as a company. And as I just said, when sick care becomes healthcare, we can and have to save billions. In the US, annually, currently, there is $1.3 trillion being spent to manage, not solve, to manage chronic illnesses. Most of them relate to mobility challenges that people live with. $1.3 trillion to manage chronic illnesses. Imagine that, where we can spend that money on. And I'll take you through some case studies that show you how we can save that money and the impact of what that means. Diabetes. This is Ria. She's a nurse. She was diagnosed with pre-diabetic diabetes, very close to being having diabetes type 2. 95% of people that have diabetes is type 2. So sometimes I do say type 2, and sometimes I just leave that away, because the 5% that is not type 2 can't do much about that. But to hone into Ria lost her job that paid her $80,000 a year. Her medical expenses are up to $9,600 per year. But Ria found the Alinker and changed her habits, changed her practices around food and around movement. And then this is Ria. She reversed her very close to diabetic in 6 months. And it's actually on the CDC website that if you move 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, you can reverse your diabetes. Ria did that, took control of her own life, is not having any medication anymore, is in community, and she participates in runs and events and feels better than years. Plus, she has her employment back as a nurse. She's working as a nurse again because now she can. If you extrapolate that over the whole demographics, there's 40 million people with diabetes, and about 100 million people, that's 1/3 of the population. I let that sink in a little bit, that are pre-diabetic. An average cost per person with diabetes, average, is $9,600 a year. I'm talking US dollars here. And the CDC has said on their website, 30 minutes activity per day, 5 days a week can actually reverse pre-diabetic conditions. But as we know with the Alinker, also full-blown diabetes, we can reverse that. if half of those people that are pre-diabetic, not even talking about the whole diabetic situation, but if half the people that are pre-diabetic can reverse and prevent costing $9,600 a year, we can save $460 billion per year. That equates to 178 million Alinkers. I mean, the numbers are completely insane if you think about that. You saw the video of Heather. Heather was spending money on braces, physiotherapy, medication, hospitalization, side effects of medical trials, depression, totaling up to $80,000 to $100,000 per year. Since she has the Alinker, she has reduced that by about $40,000 per year, because she's no longer depressed, is happy, healthy, minimized her medication, and reversed her declining condition, preventing secondary consequences, which is by activating the brain. You will not get rid of the lesions of MS, you will not get rid of MS, but if the brain is activated, the brain can find ways around the lesions, i.e. you can make the symptoms less prevalent. And on average, a person with MS costs the system, and whether you pay, your insurance pays, society pays, we all pay for the impact of all the costs related to disabilities, to chronic illnesses. An average person costs $88,487 per year. Heather has reduced it by $40,000 per year. If 1 million people could save $40,000 a year, that's $40 billion per $40 billion on just 1 million people spending time on moving and food choices. And a different issue altogether, but healthy food, good food for you is not more expensive. If you would eat boiled potatoes, organic potatoes, but if you would eat boiled potatoes for a month, you are healthier than the stuff that you're eating right now, probably. Potatoes are not a bad thing. If you fry them, yes, it becomes bad, but potatoes are actually a very cheap and very healthy vegetable, as long as they're organic. Little side note on food, because I do that. And anyway, the consequences of real food, no processed food, but real food, are dramatically positive. You could save $40 billion a year. Chronic pain. This is Lexi. Lexi has fibromyalgia and was spending about $5,000 per year on medication. She's also 420 pounds and had no way to move around. Talking about anxiety and stress going out to the supermarket, for example, where you cannot sit down. It might look accessible because it's got wide aisles, but if there's no places to sit down, it becomes very quickly very inaccessible for people who are heavier, because tired or other chronic illnesses that that need you to rest sometimes. She refused the wheelchair but found the Alinker, and Lexi, with her 420 pounds, even though the Alinker can only do 265 pounds officially, that's what we tested it for, she was like, yeah, crap, I'll take the risk and I'll just test it out and see what it does, because I need to do something, I need to move. We made a few alterations to the Alinker. We gave a different back axle. If you look at me right now, this is a back axle that is solid. We have solid rear wheels now, standard on the Alinker. She is less anxious, and I see I didn't spell that right. And she goes everywhere again with the Alinker. She was not going anywhere. Now she goes everywhere, is a very outgoing person, has lost a lot of weight, but that's not the issue, because weight is never the problem. Weight is the symptom. But people of size are stigmatized for their size, because the whole world is about diets and losing weight and all that stuff. where we, disregard the fact that chronic illnesses are underneath weight gain. Always. There's always an underlying condition or an underlying reason, like medication, that causes weight gain, that we stigmatize people of size. We make it about fat, but it's never about fat. It's always about the underlying stuff. So we're actually trying to get the Alinker up to be compatible with much higher weights, because movement is medicine. And Lexi is going everywhere and saved a lot of money on her medication. Is not on medication actually anymore, and is going out everywhere. And chronic pain, I'm saying she saved $5,000 per year, but chronic pain also includes anything related to arthritis, cancer. There's about 66 million people that live with chronic pain, and the lowballing is that they cost on average $5,000 a year. With cancer and arthritis, that easily goes up a lot. But let's say you can save $5,000 a year. 66 million people can save $165 billion per year. We as a community need to do something else, because it's not compatible anymore. The demand to the system and what the system's capacity is not compatible. So we really do need to do something else. Knee surgeries. I don't know if you know, but there's currently in the United States alone, there's 800,000 knee surgeries per year. 800,000 people get knee surgery. By 2030, it's only 7 years from now, that will have increased to 3.5 million knee surgeries because of aging and chronic illnesses. The waiting times get longer and longer. The risk, the longer you wait from diagnosis to knee surgery, the higher the risk is during surgeries. This is Terry, and Terry had all sorts of complications during her knee surgery, and all the complications in total have cost over $1 million right now. One person, the increased risk of a knee surgery that went sideways because of risk, because of the complications that happened, have cost about $1 million. It's the numbers, again, the numbers are just staggering. From going 800,000 surgeries to 3.5 million, by that same sick care system and the incompatibility, you can just see how much that is not compatible anymore. We really need to do something else. And currently, Stanford University is having 20 Alinkers and is going to do a study with what the effect of the Alinker can be on reversing the need for surgery, supporting people from diagnosis before knee surgery and in the rehabilitation. So the prehabilitation, prehab is also a thing that comes in with any kind of surgery. The better, the healthier you are before you go into surgery, the easier it is, the less risk on complications you have. So this is Terry. Terry was about to be dependent on a wheelchair, then found the Alinker, is now the fastest. And you saw that video just of her. She does 10-mile a day, is losing weight, gaining strength, prevents falling because she's not falling anymore, which was causing some of the need for the surgeries after the complications that she had initially. This is on knee surgeries. A knee surgery market is to reach $12 billion by 2026. Again, the numbers are just crazy. The average cost of a surgery is $15,000 to $70,000. 10 to 15% already has complications. Preventive use of the Alinker can save, I don't even want to put a number on that. It can save billions. And then the last one is Amelia, and Amelia was one of the campaigners with the Alinker. When she found the Alinker, this was her trajectory. she needed more and more assistance, had all sorts of, she's grave disease, depression, anxiety, a lot more stuff that related to her mobility and her ability to get out. She'd lost her job, needed more and more assistance, and was looking into assisted living nursing home situations, and around $124,000 a year that would be spending on nursing home costs annually. The need for medications for Graves' heart problems, depression, and anxiety totaled up to about $100,000 per year. She suffered muscle and joint pain from prior accidents, Graves' disease, insomnia, depression, weakness, more isolation, eating disorder, illness, and injury. Amelia found the Alinker, did a campaign with us, was completely gumspacked by the fact that a community shows up to make sure that she can get her Alinker. As I said, 236 campaigners have found an Alinker this way. And Amelia is now employed. Reversed all her conditions, is not using any medication anymore, feels better every day, relationship with food is healthy again, because she's also following the Eat Real to Heal, and I would really encourage you to look into that. It's not a diet, it's a way to be with food, to learn again what real food is. Potatoes, for example, very real food, very healthy, very cheap, versus all the stuff that is marketed to us as healthy, because healthy is marketed, real food is real food. If you want to know more about that, please contact us, because we have groups that we facilitate to reverse chronic illnesses. She's not spending any money now. She saves about $250,000 per year. Not that she would pay that, but we all would pay for that. And her situation is not unique, sadly enough. We can do something together. We can really change the course of what we are doing. We can really change the course of disability and chronic illnesses together. And we as a company are building our company, have built our company to be the antidote to a sick care system. And as a company, we do that. We're a certified B Corp. We are more than carbon neutral. We've planted over 80,000 trees. We make sure that everybody in the supply chain is treated well, from raw products, Taiwan manufacturing plants that I personally all know those people. I check whether they have their safety gear on, if they get paid at least minimum wage in their country. All that stuff, we make sure that that happens. This is an ethical product. It's more than carbon neutral. So it's actually beyond that. You don't use a motor. It's actually helping this planet be livable that way again. And two, we employ people with disabilities. We do campaigns with people. We have the 0% interest for rent to own to make Alinkers accessible. We have a little shop in Vancouver that you can come and try the Alinker on Wednesdays and only on appointment. So give us contact us when you're interested, and when you're in Vancouver. We're establishing a whole network throughout North America of Alinker users who are willing to let people try them in various locations. We pay living wages, not minimum wage, but we pay living wages. The product is not cheap, and in a way it's really cheap, because it actually, most people can make the investment of the Alinker back within a year of all the medical bills that they're not paying anymore. So yes, it's an initial investment. We are helping with that. We're doing everything that we can as a tiny little business to make sure that people can access the Alinker when they want to and need to, understanding that people have been driven into poverty by this system. And a shocking thing that's happening lately, I'm very much for assisted death and but not because the situation for people with disability becomes so unbearable because the sick care system actually doesn't give the support that we need. Living with disabilities, and then MAID is an option. That's in Canada for Americans that are listening. MAID is assisted dying program, but it is appalling that people need to revert to assisted dying because life becomes too unbearable in a sick care system that doesn't support people with disabilities in quality of life. So as the Alinker, we call for join on the community, show up for each other, what we do. We have an active live Facebook group with 1,200 active Alinker users. We have 5,500 Alinkers out there in the world so far. We're not a big company. We're not having mass production, but we do what we can to use the Alinker as a vehicle for change. So engage with us, whether you're an Alinker user or you think you might be an Alinker user, reach out to us, be part of the community, and ask us about food as well. We work together with Nicolette Richer with Eat Real to Heal. It is amazing what is possible, and it is not more expensive. So please reach out to us, and I'm gonna give it back to you, Kausar.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Do you have any like website or anything? You can share it in the chat.
Okay, I will share that in the chat. What I will actually do is share our link tree. Our link tree has, let's see, our link tree has all the links you need. Not that one, this one. This is the link tree. It's got the website, it's got all our social media channels, it's got the newsletter. We send a weekly newsletter out with a lot of information, share what people are sharing with us, stories that inspire the crap out of you, and not like, oh, you're so inspiring, but actually people inspiring each other and then changing their activities based on how inspired they were by what that person did differently, as the stories and the videos that I've just shared with you. So please engage with us. Send us an email. On the website, if you go to the pop-up thing with, that's not a bot, but with the customer service thing that pops up, you will actually talk to Alinker users, and you will talk to Jennifer, who's on this call. Jennifer, maybe you want to introduce yourself and say something quickly.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. I've been with the Alinker for probably almost 3.5 years. I did a campaign to get my Alinker, and since my voice changed and I woke up that morning and I could speak faster and better, I hadn't shut up since. So I just keep on speaking. I think it's an amazing company, and it's an honor to be in this meeting with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. Yes, Kausar.
Share your link with our team, so they will also have it in records.
Fantastic. And if there's any questions, please reach out to us. We're friendly, we're always there. Jennifer will be mostly connecting with you on the pop-up thing on the website, doing the customer service, answering all your questions. Engage with us, reach out, any questions, anything, we're here. And I can send this, I will put in the chat my email.
Yeah.
That if you want to make an appointment to come to the shop on Wednesday in Vancouver, that's possible. Here is my phone number. We're available, you know, we're accessible, we're available, we're in. Yeah, we just want to build a world together that is not judged on what we look like, but judged on how who we decide to be and how to show up in this world. And then we can change everything. Really, we can change everything because we changed ourselves.
Wonderful. Okay, so I will end the call if nobody has any questions or anything like that.
No questions? Put them in the chat. Ruth, do you want to ask some questions? Yes, Ruth.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. I've been studying your website and videos and articles and things, and I really am glad to know that I can come to your shop in Vancouver to try one out, because that's what I really want, is to try it out first. And so I will be getting in touch to make an appointment. I live out in South Delta, so I can come into Vancouver, and I look forward to meeting you and doing that.
If you use my phone number, please text me first, because I'm getting so many spam calls. I don't take them anymore. So
Okay.
text me first, and then say like, I'm Ruth, call me, and then I'll call you
Okay.
back, right?
Thanks for the hint. I will do that. Thank you so much for doing this today.
Thank you. And people that are not close to Vancouver, as I said, we're building a list of Alinker users that is now about over 50 people scattered over the US that are willing to meet with you to try, so you can try the Alinker. So reach out to us if you're not in Vancouver and you want to try it somewhere. We've got people all over the place, and that list is building, so you can try an Alinker somewhere in the wild. Yeah. But thank you, Kausar, for giving me the opportunity to talk today and to present this.
Thank you. It was really wonderful. Hope
Thank you so much.
Good response.
Thank you. And will you send me the links where this was recorded, or that we can reshare it? Okay, fantastic.
I put it there, a YouTube link and a Facebook link. I put it in there.
Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Send you the link, the recording where it is. So
fantastic. That'd be appreciated.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye.